Our lesson for reflection today is on Saint Matthew, the Apostle and the Evangelist. Matthew was born with the Jewish name Levi, and he was the son of Alphaeus. As a tax collector, he would have been literate in Aramaic and Greek. Aramaic was the language of all of Judea. Hebrew was the language of the Jews. Matthew was a Jew who worked for the occupying Roman forces, collecting taxes from other Jews. The Romans were not scrupulous about what the tax farmers got for themselves. Hence, the latter, known as publicans, were generally hated as traitors by their fellow Jews. The Pharisees lumped them in with all other sinners. So it was shocking to them to hear Jesus call such a man to be one of his intimate followers. Matthew got Jesus in further trouble by having a sort of going away party at his house. The Gospel tells us that many tax collectors and those known as sinners came to this dinner. The Pharisees were more badly shocked. What business did this supposedly great teacher have associating with such immoral people? Jesus' answer was, "Those who are well do not need a physician, but the sick do. Go learn the meaning of the words, 'I desire mercy, not sacrifice.' I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Jesus is not setting aside ritual and worship. He is saying that loving others is even more important. Matthew's ministry. The New Testament records that as a disciple, Matthew followed Jesus and was one of the witnesses of the ascension of Jesus the Christ. Afterwards, the disciples withdrew to an upper room in Jerusalem. The disciples remained in and about Jerusalem and proclaimed that Jesus was the promised Messiah. In the Babylonian Talmud, Mattai is one of the 5 disciples of Yesu. Later church fathers such as Irenaeus and Clement of Alexandria claim that Matthew preached the gospel to the Jewish community in Judea before going off to other countries. The ancient writers are not in agreement as to what these other countries are for Matthew. The Roman Catholic and Orthodox Church each hold the tradition that Matthew died as a martyr as early as the 2nd century, but each hold him dying in a different location. The Gospel of Matthew is written anonymously. The author is not named within the text, and the superscription, according to Matthew, was added sometime in the later 2nd century. The tradition that the author was the disciple Matthew begins with the early Christian bishop Papias of Hierapolis in circa 100 to 140 AD. On the surface, this has been taken to imply that Matthew's Gospel itself was written in Hebrew or Aramaic by the Apostle Matthew, and later translated into Greek. But nowhere does the author claim to have been an eyewitness to events, and Matthew's Greek reveals none of the telltale marks of translation. Scholars have put forward several theories to explain Papias. Perhaps Matthew wrote two Gospels, one, now lost, in Hebrew, in the other, our Greek version. Or perhaps the Logia was a collection of sayings rather than a Gospel. Or Papias may have meant that Matthew wrote in the Jewish style rather than in the Hebrew language. The consensus is that Papias does not describe the Gospel of Matthew as we know it, and it is generally accepted that Matthew was written in Greek, not in Aramaic or Hebrew. Origen said the first Gospel was written by Matthew. This Gospel was composed in Hebrew near Jerusalem for Hebrew Christians and then translated into Greek, but the Greek copy was lost. Matthew is recognized as a saint in the Roman Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Lutheran, and Anglican churches. There are churches named after St. Matthew in all of these faiths. His feast day is celebrated on 21st September in the West and 16 November in the East. He is the patron saint of accountants, actors, bankers, bookkeepers, tax collectors, and taxi drivers.